When we talk about being faithful, we are talking about not just belief, but we are talking about the mixture of belief and love, the divine connection that goes into love and faith. When there is belief, but yet there is intimacy. When there is belief, but yet there is a certain level of care that causes a conviction when the idea of separation takes place. When the testing and the trials of life take place, but yet that conviction from that love steps in and says, I cannot leave. I cannot detach myself. See, now we do this with human beings. We are faithful to human beings because we have relationships. And within the context of those relationships, we may experience different hardships, different hard times, different arguments may take place. And when that happens, although our emotions may make us want to become non-faithful, because our emotions may cause us to want to go and do something different, it is not just our belief in them and in this relationship that makes us stay, that keeps us in a position of alignment, that keeps us committed, but it's also the love that we have. So faithfulness becomes predicated off of love and belief. And you got to get to a position where the way you deal with your day-to-day life is based off of your faithfulness, and that faithfulness being predicated off of the love that you have for God and the belief that you have in him and his word and his plan and his destiny and his purpose that he is predestined and put over your life. You got to get to a point in your life where you don't allow for your faithfulness to become distorted, where you don't allow for your faithfulness to become null and void in your relationship with God, because you are not simply committed because you believe in who he is, but you are committed because you love him for who he is. Are you following what I'm saying? Lay your head on your Bible. Glory. Come on. Lay your head on your Bible. Come on. Lay it down. Lay it down. Lay it down. Oh, lay it down. Lay your head on your Bible. Come on. Now what it say? Lay. Holy, 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 your head on your Bible. Come on now, Welcome in to fourth quarter pressure, where you were always the more, and you have never been the lesser. And I am the captain. I am your leader. I am here for the benefit of you to ensure that you get to everything that God has for your life. So with that being said, I am your host, CJ Stokely, and I am always honored. I am always grateful. I am elated, and I am excited for this opportunity to lock in with you on a Thursday for the second podcast of this week. The second episode of this week, we are about to dive in. Ain't that what Trey Songz said? But we about to dive into the word, We about to dive into this substance, We about to dive into this righteousness. You hear me? We about to get an understanding of all of the things that God intends for us to get an understanding of as it pertains to the topic of this episode, which I am about to get into in just a moment. But before I do that, I would like to say, I hope that you have had a great week. I hope that the last episode on Monday blessed you, gave you wisdom, gave you knowledge, gave you insight, that you obtained power and motivation from the anointing that was on that episode, that God spoke to you, that the Holy Spirit gave you revelation of what it is that God is trying to say in your life for you to move divinely in a position of alignment to obtain the access and the elevation that is going to come with the promise that God has predestined for your life. So, with all of that being said, let's get right into it. Oh, but if I get right into it, then I would be doing a disservice because there is something that I always must do. Huh? And if you don't know, because I know some of you all have already seen an episode of mine before, so you already know what it is. But for those of you who are new, you are about to find out. Huh? Huh? You are about to find out. Huh? Huh? Something that God has commanded and demanded for me to do. A responsibility that comes with the weight of the glory that is possessed by the crown that God has placed and bestowed upon my head so righteously and perfectly for a predestined and divine time that led me to be in a conversation with you. Something that I must tell you about, something that I must express, something that I must get off of my chest. Huh? Something that I must talk to you about, because if I don't, then you won't have the information that you need in order to dress to impress. So with no further ado, let me come and talk to you about glory gear apparel. Huh? Who said it? Who said it? Huh? Who rolling with Lee? Huh? Glory gear apparel. It's got everything you need. It's got everything you want. It's got everything you can think of because the idea was sent from above. Huh? 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 We got everything for every occasion where you can dress for righteous persuasion. Huh? Huh? When you can show people that you represent God even when they play a hating. Huh? Huh? Where you can show people that you believe and you achieve and you rep that G-O-D on your sleeve. Oh my God, the power in that. Jesus. Huh? Huh? Glory gear apparel, the number one, not the number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And pretty soon we're gonna have the glory apparel kicks. Huh? Huh? We're gonna have it all laid out. And it ain't never gonna be played out. Huh? We gonna keep that thing righteous and let the devil stay out. Huh? We gonna keep it repping the kingdom. Huh? And then we gonna keep people, I don't know, I can't think of nothing else to rhyme with that, but you get the point. Go over to officialglorygear.com. Huh? Because that's the website. That's the website where you're going to find everything you need. That's the website you're going to find everything you're looking for. That's the website where you can dress to impress and show that you the best with Jesus Christ across your chest. Come on, give God some glory for a minute. I'll wait. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah. And then, of course, you know, I cannot do the disservice of forgetting the hey ladies. I can't forget the queens. I can't forget the women of God who are anointed and appointed and divine and fine. I can't forget all about y'all. Huh? Because God has something special for y'all. And that something special is called edgy chick. Huh? He has used the vessels that came up with the idea of glory gear apparel and founded it. And they used their wisdom, their insight, and their knowledge to create something divine and elegant just for you. Edgy chick is not just something that talks about being edgy, but it is something that talks about how you are edgy and you rep the kingdom. Huh? How you rep God, but you ain't no facade. How you don't never look like a wankster, even though you kind of still got that gangster. Huh? Huh? You let people know, hey, listen now, back up off me. Huh? Back up off me. Huh? Because I love God. But if you play, I'm going to show you who I really am. You know what I'm saying? Huh? Hey, where you let them know, hey, don't roll up on me now. Huh? Because I rebuke you. But if you push me too hard, I'm going to have to show you something about me. Huh? But I'm still called and I'm still anointed and I'm still appointed and I still serve at church and I still love God and I'm still growing spiritually and I'm still moving towards my destiny and my purpose and my calling. But I'm with all of you get my drift. Don't make me. Don't make me. Huh? It's something for y'all queens, huh? Who know how to be a believer and put it on your body. So if you have not, or even if you have, go over to officialglorygear.com because there's going to be something on there for you. There's going to be something that will bless your life. So now let's get right into it. On this week's episode, this Thursday's episode, we are going to be talking about being faithful over faith. The importance of being faithful over faith. Now, I want you to understand before we dive into this, that when we talk about being faithful, we are talking about not just belief, but we are talking about the mixture of belief and love, the divine connection that goes into love and faith. When there is belief, but yet there is intimacy. When there is belief, but yet there is a certain level of care that causes a conviction when the idea of separation takes place. When the testing and the trials of life take place, but yet that conviction from that love steps in and says, I cannot leave. I cannot detach myself. See, now we do this with human beings. We are faithful to human beings because we have relationships. And within the context of those relationships, we may experience different hardships, different hard times, different arguments may take place. And when that happens, although our emotions may make us want to become non-faithful, because our emotions may cause us to want to go and do something different, it is not just our belief in them and in this relationship that makes us stay, that keeps us in a position of alignment, that keeps us committed, but it's also the love that we have. So faithfulness becomes predicated off of love and belief. And you got to get to a position where the way you deal with your day-to-day life is based off of your faithfulness, and that faithfulness being predicated off of the love that you have for God and the belief that you have in him and his word and his plan and his destiny and his purpose that he is predestined and put over your life. You got to get to a point in your life where you don't allow for your faithfulness to become distorted, where you don't allow for your faithfulness to become null and void in your relationship with God, because you are not simply committed because you believe in who he is, but you are committed because you love him for who he is. Are you following what I'm saying? So when we understand faithfulness, it is your belief, it is your faith, and it is your love. So when we say faithful over faith, we are saying belief plus love over belief. Faith plus love over faith. Are you following what I'm saying? So now let's dive into it. What is the definition of faith? What is something that will allow for us to get a deeper understanding of faith? Because I want us to be able to dive into the substance that is in this. Because if we get the full understanding of this, it is going to change the dynamic of our relationship with God forever. It is going to change the way that we approach things with God. It is going to change and transform the way that we think in the midst of certain storms, in the midst of certain hardships, in the midst of certain trials. And it is going to allow for us to be a constant and a consistent individual in our relationship with God. So let's go into it. Faith is the foundation and the assurance that gives substance and reality to our hopes. Even when we cannot physically see or prove them, it implies a confident expectation and conviction in the unseen realities and promises of God. Faith provides the basis for our hopes. The basis. I want you to get that. The basis for our hopes, making them feel real and tangible even before they are fully realized. It is the foundation upon which our hopes are built. The foundation, when you build a nice, beautiful house, you have to be sure that the foundation is solid. If you build your house on something that is solid, it will always stand. If you build your house on something weak, then it is guaranteed to fall by the winds and the waves and the storms of life. So when we talk about faith, the reason for why we are able to have a knowing and a level of surety that what God is, who God is, and what God said is going to come to pass is because that faith is rooted on a solid foundation. And that foundation becomes what our hopes are built off of. That foundation is the proof that what is going to happen is going to happen. It hasn't happened yet, but because God is who he is, because he released, because he spoke the word that he spoke, I know in all reality, in all confidence, in all surety that he is who he is. He's always going to be who he is. I can look back over my life and remember that he is who he is. So I have faith to know that what he said he's going to do is going to come to pass. So faith, it is the foundation upon which our hopes are built. But faith must also be reflected in actions. So not simply just believing. So when you truly have faith, you display actions that reflect your knowing and your sense of surety. So when you got this belief, when you got this faith, it comes with a certain level of trust. To be sure of anything means that you have to have a certain level of trust. So when I have trust in God, that means I got faith in God. That means I got belief in God. So that means something on the inside of me should reflect that belief. Something should reflect that faith. You cannot simply say that you have faith, but then have no proof within yourself that shows yourself and other people that you actually have the faith that you have. What can I see on the inside of you that reflects your faith? What can I see that you display on a day-to-day basis that reflects your faith? How can I know? Show me the proof. I need the evidence that you have faith. Because the evidence that God is who he is the reality that you are still standing here. The evidence that God is who he is that you have breath in your lungs, that you are breathing each and every day, that he keeps providing for you. Even when you think all things are going to go wrong, even when you think there has never been a way out of certain situations, you are still standing in a position of existence. So the proof that God is who he is, when you look at the birds and the bees, and you look at the trees and the leaves, and you look at the sunshine and the sky, the evidence is all around you that God is who he says he is. But where is your evidence? Where is the proof that reflects in your actions that your faith is in God? That your belief is that God says that that your belief that God is who he says he is. Where is that at? Because you have to ensure that there is proof on the inside of you, that there is proof coming out of you that God is who he says he is, and you have faith in that. Are you following what I'm saying? Let's keep going. So, this means that you have the understanding that the level of surety you possess, that you reflect in your actions, despite that things are not yet seen, you understand that they will be seen. So to be faithful is to be full of faith, meaning you are full of actions to the point of it becoming your identity. So you now become loyalty. You now become commitment. You now become consistency. You now become a constant. You being faithful looks like you flowing in this thing for so long that it is now who you are. You are not simply somebody that says, I have faith, but no, I am the reflection of my faith. I am the reflection of consistency. I am the reflection of constant. I am the reflection of being somebody that represents what loyalty looks like. I should be able to look at you and say, that right there is godly loyalty. That right there is godly commitment. That right there is godly consistency, because it is now who you are. I don't just talk about it, but I'm going to be about it. I don't just say it, but I'm going to show you. I'm going to pull up and I'm going to let you see something. I'm going to pull up and I'm going to show you. I'm going to arrive on the scene being every single thing that my belief says I should be. Because I am faithful. But let's go deeper. But see, faithfulness is not solely because of faith, but it is also because of love. So my faithfulness makes me reflect that, yeah, I'm the constant. Yeah, I'm loyal. I'm that thing. But it is also my love for God that allows for me to be consistent in the midst of storms. See, even in your regular relationships, when things happen and things take place, that love that kicks in allows for you to stay constant. So now you and your relationship with God, when you know who he really is, when you have gratitude for him, when you honor him, when you magnify him, when you lift him up, when you make a boast, when you make a joyful noise, when you are excited and elated that he has given you another day and you know you don't deserve it because you are someone who sins, and sin has the penalty of death, and yet he still allows by grace for you to be existent and still breathing and still living. So you have a level of love in your heart for God, and it is cause for you to walk with God and talk with God and develop a level of intimacy that cannot be touched, that the devil cannot tamper with, that the devil cannot tarnish, that cannot be moved or shaken, even when your belief has become null and void, even when the trials of life have caused you to question certain things about what God said. Not that you question that God is who he is, but that you question whether or not he said what he said. But yet that conviction that comes from love keeps you in a position where you say, regardless of all of that, I'm going to snatch myself up. I'm going to get myself together. I'm going to make a decision to stay steadfast. I'm going to keep my feet planted on solid ground, because my foundation being faith, and then the faithfulness I have being predicated off of that faith, and the love that I have for God will keep me in a position where regardless of what's going on, I'm locked in. I am staying focused on my relationship with God. I am staying focused and committed, staying true to the loyalty and the commitment and the constant that I am. Are you following what I'm saying? So this word faithful is something that should mean I am not simply full of belief, but I am full of godly love. I am full of a level of passion for my God. I am full of a level of submission, because whoever I love, I submit to. True love is sacrifice. And when I am sacrificing, I am submitting. My will and my desire, my emotions that begin to be all over the place because of the different things that I see going on in my life, I do not allow for that to cause me to move off of my own volition and do whatever I want to do. I stay true to the position of sacrifice. I stay true to the position of submission, because I am ready to lay it all down for God. Because God, I love you. God, I thank you. God, I magnify you. God, I lift you up because you are who you are. And the love that I have for you keeps me in a position where at any point in time that I need to sacrifice, beat my flesh into submission, deny myself, deny my own feelings, die to my own will, and stay steadfast right where you have called for me to be, I will do it because I love you and because I believe in you. So we have to understand this faithfulness is not simply faith. It is not simply belief, but it is love. Are you following what I'm saying? So my first question to you is, are you faithful? Before we go into anything else, before we go into any points, I want you to think about that. Are you faithful? Are you full of faith and love? Are you the actions that reflect your belief and the love that you have? I'm going to give you about 10 seconds. Just think about it. Ask yourself that question. Are you faithful? All right, now let's go into it. Point number one. And this is something that is important for us as believers, because it rains on the just and the unjust. But a lot of times it rains harder on the just. It rains harder on the righteous. It rains harder on those who are called, anointed, and appointed, and that are walking in that path of righteousness, trying to be all of who God has planned for them to be. Those who have stepped over into a relationship with God that is predicated off of righteousness, and they now dwell in a position where they operate not by their own will, but they operate off what God has for them. Those individuals, us individuals, have a tendency to go through more attacks. It seems to rain more on us. And so my question for you is, are you faithful when faith becomes lost? Can you maintain your level of faithfulness when faith begins to be shaken? When your faith is now in question? When your belief is now in question? When, because of the things that have happened in your life, the pain that you have been exposed to, the level of vulnerability you have given and it's been taken advantage of, will you allow for the questions in your mind that go off that say, God, if you good, why would you allow this to happen to me? Consume you? Or will you allow for those questions to take place, but you still stay steadfast? You still stay in a position of faithfulness. You still stay in a position being true to what you know, even when you have questions. Oh, you following what I'm saying? Why is this important? I want to go over to Proverbs 13, chapter 13, verse 12. It says, hope deferred makes the heart grow sick. When something you have been eagerly anticipating, this is what this verse means. Something you've been eagerly anticipating is delayed or unfulfilled. It can cause emotional distress and disappointment. So to my point, do you have the understanding that it is possible at times to lose faith in what God said, but still have faith in who he is? See, because a lot of believers still believe that God is God. But because of sometimes how long it takes in the process, because of how much pain is endured on the path to the promise, on the thing that God told you you would have, on the thing that God said he would do for you, on the thing that God said he would give you, because of how much goes on and the tumultuous amount of trials and tribulations that take place, it causes for us to get to a position where sometimes we start to question what God said while yet still knowing that he is God. This is why you will hear individuals say you got to recall to your mind the things that he has done before. You got to recall to your mind the times where you went through a process, but he still delivered. This is the power in you recalling things to your mind, because it is possible to be in a relationship with God and yet stand in a position where you say, God, I believe in who you are. I know you are who you are. I trust in you, but this plan, this thing that you said you were going to do has too long of a process. And now I'm starting to wonder if it's ever going to happen. So can I stay in a position of obedience, staying in a position of alignment, that keeps me in a place where I am still waiting? If the position that God has predestined for you to be in is on this path to your purpose and to your promise, then can I commit? Can I be faithful to staying in that position even when that position has me waiting? Even when I am exposed to having a mind full of questions, even when I am exposed to feeling vulnerable and feeling like nothing is going to change in my life, can I still stay committed? Can I still be faithful? Can I still be a reflection of loyalty? Can I still be a reflection of commitment? Can I still be a constant in the earth? Can I still do and be what I am called to do and be regardless of what's going on? Understanding that both can exist. That's a question for you. Because I know for me personally, it is my responsibility and it is my obligation to make sure that I stay constant, that I stay consistent, regardless of what I see going on around me. So I am committed to the core. I am 100% going to make sure that my faithfulness is always intact, because I believe in God's plan, even when it seems like it isn't going to work out. I believe in God, even when it seems like it's not going to work out. And even when I go through those different phases in my life where I have questions too, I tap into my love, understanding that to be faithful requires belief and love. I have to love God enough. And God doing what he has done for me in my life, God bringing me from where he has brought me in my life. Oh my God, for me not to love God, I would be a fool. So I love God so much and I appreciate God so much that even if there was a way that what he said wasn't going to happen, which is not possible because his word will not return unto him void. His word has to take place. Whatever he said has to manifest. It is going to happen. Matter of fact, it's already done. We just waiting to show up at what he spoke. So I know it's going to happen, but if hypothetically there was some way that it wouldn't, I would still stay in the position that he has told me to stay in, that he has called me to, because I love him. See, I don't need the blessing to be obedient. All I need is my belief and my love. All I need to know is that he rescued me. He saved me. He changed my life. He cultivated a level of spirituality on the inside of me that no way possible I could have ever manifested in my own life. He did this. And because he did it, I love him. I'm true to him. I'm committed to him. And you have to get to that point on your level, as you go on this path and this journey with your relationship with God. You have to get to a point where that is the substance that you possess, so that you are always in a position to maintain your faithfulness. Let's keep going. Will you lose faith in who he is because you don't see what he said yet? Will you start to get to a point where, because everything has been so challenging, everything has been seeming to go wrong, everything has been getting harder and harder and harder, and yet you have not seen what it is that God promised you? Just like Moses and the children of Israel, walking around for 40 years, never showing up at the promised land until after 40 years long. Will you ever get to the point where you stop believing in God? Because if you stop believing in God, you forfeit your promised land. See, Moses still knew that God was who he was, even though he got frustrated with the people, even though he got frustrated because the journey was taking as long as it was, even though he was frustrated during that time and all of the different things that took place as the children of Israel were on their way to the promised land. He still kept his belief in God. So can you keep your belief in God? Because he still arrived at the promised land. Now, his disobedience, because he struck the rock rather than speaking to the rock for it to produce the water that he needed. Instead of obeying God, he disobeyed God. So he showed up at the promised land, but never got to enter the promised land. But for you, will you forfeit your promised land because you have chosen to stop believing in God because what he said hasn't happened yet? Do not allow yourself to succumb to the pressure and the pain and the trauma and the emotionalism that tries to consume you, that tries to control you and begin to dictate your actions when you are waiting, when you are in the process of dealing with pain, when you are in the process of dealing with loss, when you are in the process of dealing with grief, because this thing will only last for a moment. Right? Those who sow in tears reap in joy. So even in the midst of you crying, even in the midst of you going through what you are going through, you have to remember that at some point, someday, sometime, you are going to reap a harvest of joy. You are going to show up to your promised land as long as you can stay in the position of having the constant and consistent faith in God, despite if you start to question what he said. Because the reality of it is that we are human. We are going to question certain things. We are going to get tempted. We are flesh. So to feel what you feel is perfectly fine. But what will you do with what you feel if you don't have the power on the inside of you? If you don't have the level of love for God and the intimacy with God to pull from that power and say, I will not allow my flesh to dictate my faith, then you got to grow. You got to mature. You got to get closer with God. You got to dive into your word. You got to pray more. You got to do whatever you got to do to get yourself to a place that even in the midst of your faith being in question, even when you are not seeing what you want to see, you don't lose your faith for who he is. But you hold on for dear life, knowing that what you are holding on to, who you are holding on to, is the magnificent God of heaven and earth, the magnificent God that in an instant could change everything like that for you. So keep holding on, keep hanging on. Don't let yourself let go, because you're starting to lose your mind. But keep your peace. Hold on to your faith, because God is always going to be God, yesterday, today, and forevermore. Let's keep going. Point number 2. When your faith is in question, you must lean into love. If I am in a situation with somebody that I am involved in a relationship with in the natural realm, on earth, physically, a human being, if I am in a position where the faith is now at question, my belief in this relationship, my belief in this person, my belief that they can change, my belief that they're not going to cheat no more, my belief that they're not going to lie no more, my belief that they're not going to let me down, that they actually do care about me, my belief in this relationship, my belief in what they say is now in question. What do I lean on? I lean on my love. I don't want to leave because I love them. I don't want to leave because I love her. Now, how is it that when it comes to the natural realm and when it comes to human beings, we can lean on love so much that we stay in a position despite our faith being in question, despite us not believing in that individual anymore, despite us knowing in our heart they may never change, and having the understanding that this is not the same with God. God is always righteous. He can never do no wrong. And even though I know that, I still allow myself to succumb to emotionalism and allow for it to move me over into a position where I do not stay faithful to God by leaning on love, but I will do it with a human being. What is going on? There is a level of spiritual immaturity that is taking place. I gotta grow up in the spirit. I got to grow up in my relationship with God. I got to grow up in my word and how much I read and how much I devote myself to the concepts and the precepts of the word of God. I got to start learning the counsel of God. I got to start understanding the way that God thinks. I got to start understanding the level of divinity that he possesses and how righteous and how powerful he really is. And the only way to do that is to go and read about him, learn about him, pray to him, talk to him. I got to build up my efforts to commit to a relationship with God so that I can get the level of understanding, knowledge, wisdom, insight, and spiritual intellectualism that I need so that I can stay in a position when I face different trials, when I go through different things in my life, I stay faithful to him. Because just like a human being in a relationship, I stay faithful because I lean on love. Stop always looking for answers and lean on love. God, I don't know how you're going to do it, but I love you. God, I don't know when you're going to do it, but I love you. God, I don't know where you're going to do it, but I love you. So because I love you, it allows for me to stay steadfast. It allows for me to stay in a position where I never submit my purpose to the devil. I never submit my destiny to the devil. I never just give up in life. I never just lay down, succumb, and just say, you know what? This is it. This is all. It's all over with. I'm just going to do my own thing. I'm just going to go be carnal. I'm going to go be unrighteous. I keep staying steadfast. I become a constant. Because when faith is in question, my position is not. When faith and belief is starting to become shaken, when things has called for my belief and my trust and my confidence to be shaken, my love is not. My love tells me that even in the midst of that, even in the midst of the shaking, even in the midst of the breaking, even in the midst of the pain, even in the midst of the problem, even in the midst of the questions, my love says all things work together for the good of those who love God and are called according to his purpose. And if I love him, then it has no choice but to all work together for my good. I am able to recall to my mind certain things by way of using logic and understanding and reasoning Because my love for God helps me think clear. My love for God in the midst of pain helps me to have a little common sense. My love said, come on, wake up, wake up, wake up. You know who you talking about. You know this your father. You know this the creator of heaven and earth. You know he predestined you. You know he gave you a plan and a purpose for your life. You know he loves you. You know he sent his son to die for you. You know he redeemed you. You know he pulled you out the fire. All of these things start coming back to your mind because you remember by way of thinking clearly. Because your love is helping you to have the right vision in the midst of everything going wrong and all of your faith being in question. Are you following what I'm saying? Let's keep going. Love will give you the obedience you need to remain faithful. Just talked about that. Love will also remind you of why you should remain faithful. Why should you remain faithful? Why should you continue to be consistent? Well, I know for a fact that we all done been through different things in our life. I know for a fact we done all dealt with different situations and circumstances that did not seem very beneficial for us. Matter of fact, we all have been in situations that we placed ourselves in and we did not have the power to get ourselves out. But somehow the grace that God allows for us to have that covers us, covered the multitude of sin, and he kept us and he pulled us out of our old ways. So again, this is the power of recalling things to your mind. If you can remember by way of your love that God has always been there with you, even when you wasn't serving him, even when you wasn't committed to him, even when you should have been dead. Why is it that you're here? How did you make it to today? How you get here? You called an Uber? You called a Lyft? I know ain't nobody pull up and get you, because the way that you got here had to be by some way of miracle. And it ain't nobody out here doing miracles other than God. So to stand now in a position of righteousness where you are operating in your purpose, somebody had to come get you. And I'm confident that somebody was God. And I know because he came and got me. You hear me? He came and got me about that thing. So it has to be that. So you have to get to a point where you remind yourself, this is why I should be faithful, because my boy, my father, Big G-O-D, he came and pulled up on me. And then he pulled me out. You dig what I'm saying? Let's keep going. Love will motivate you to get your faith back. Your love will motivate you to get your faith back. Because if your love is the thing that is allowing for you to stay committed, it is the thing that allows for you to be able to think clearly in the middle of everything going wrong, in the middle of your faith being tested, in the middle of Satan trying to get your faith to be void, then that means that your love is the thing that will cause for you to remember what God has done. And then based on the memory of what God has done, it will allow for you to know that God will do it again. So love brings clarity of thought. That clarity of thought brings the remembrance. And the remembrance is what pushes you to say, now wait a minute. If God did all of this stuff for me before, if God has delivered every single time I thought he wasn't going to deliver. Now, not every single time in my time, but every single time, meaning that the time that he delivered was always predicated off of when he was ready and when he was going to do it. Matter of fact, if you want to go deeper into it, the time he was going to deliver was already set in place. We are the ones abiding by time. So God will step into the way we abide by things, the way we operate by things being time. He will step into how we operate and place some on the timeline of our life that he is going to do something, but it's already done. So when you remember that God delivered every time on his time frame, when he was ready to do it, then it'll help you get to a point where you say, now, why would I lose my faith? Why would I allow for myself to get to a position where I just completely do away with my belief that God gonna do what he said he's gonna do? Why would I allow for myself to get to a place where I start to say, I'm gonna allow the hardships I'm dealing with that's causing me to question my faith, make me do away with my faith altogether, when I know for a fact that every single time in my life I begin to question what God said, he still delivered despite that. Now here's the reality. When you start to think about how righteous God is and the fact that we still question him sometimes while we are in the middle of a process, it would make you think that it would make him want to say, well, since you're going to question me, I'm not going to give it to you. But what about how God has never, ever withheld anything that he had planned for your life, despite whether you questioned it or not? How many times have you arrived at the promise that he said you was going to get, and you can remember you questioning if it was going to happen? He delivered despite you wondering if it was going to happen, questioning how it was going to happen, thinking that he might not do it, thinking that maybe you heard wrong. And yet and still, when he could sit back and say, well, since you want to question me, like you know, like you don't know that I am who I say I am, like you don't know that I am the I am, like you don't know that I'm the great, I'm the king, I'm the big dog around here, and you questioning me? Well, I'm the reason why you breathing. How you gonna question me? Oh, because everything you going through that made you forget. Oh, you can't remember now. Your brain not working now, huh? Oh, you don't love me enough, huh? To get yourself back to a position where you keep your faith even when your faith is in question. You don't love me enough to stay in a place of faithfulness. But even in the midst of all of that, what does God do? He always still shows up. So you have to be in a position where you allow for your love for your love for God, the intimacy you have with God, the connection, the gratitude, the appreciation you have for God, to push you into recalling things to your mind, and let that recalling to your mind motivate you to say, I'm not losing my faith. Give me my faith back, devil. You can't take my faith from me. You can't take my belief from me. I don't care what's going on. I don't care how many demons you send. I don't care how many attacks you throw my way. I'm going to keep my faith because I know that this is the same God who did this last year. I know this is the same guy who did this 3 years ago. I know this is the same guy who delivered a week ago, a month ago, 6 months ago. I know this is the same God. So I understand the way that God operates even when I don't know exactly what he's doing. I understand how he moves because he's consistent. Following what I'm saying? Let's keep going. Point number 3. You have to grow enough in the understanding of who God is so that that's all it takes for you to be faithful. Oh, see, now here we go. See, now I'm about to get excited. Now I'm about to get excited. See, because too many times there are too many variables that have to come into play for us to keep our faith. Let's keep it plain and simple. God is God. How about that? Let's just keep it right there. Huh? God don't owe me nothing. God don't owe you nothing, but he is. And if you can get to the point where you are spiritual enough, where you are devoted enough to your righteous walk with God, that you have matured to the place where you have the understanding of the statement that I just made, you don't need nothing else. You don't need to see nothing going good for you. You don't need for things to be manifesting for your benefit in your life. You don't need for there to be no trials. You don't need for there to be no storms. You don't need to have the understanding that it rains on the just and the unjust. None of that matters. At the end of the day, if God is God and you know that God is God, that in itself will cause you to quiver in your boots from a position of reverence, from a righteous fear, and make you stay committed because you understand exactly who he is. The divine power that he possesses in itself is more than enough to make me submit myself, bow my head, and say, whatever you say, God. Because who told you that you were owed something? Who told you that you had to have certain things? Who told you Don't let the trick of the devil in your flesh and in your carnality convince you that you something more than what you are. The Bible said no man should think higher of himself than he ought to. Who do you think that you are? Have you forgotten that this is your creator? So when you say the name God, what you are saying is, oh, magnificent, righteous, perfect, holistic, creator, powerful one, great one, the purpose giver. That's what you're saying. So to understand that God is God is to understand you should be faithful. See, this is a deeper level of spiritual maturity. See, I don't need to recall things to my mind when I know this is God. I don't need to remember what he did before when I know this is God. Now, the reality of it is because we are human, sometimes we will fall into a position where we will need to remind ourselves, but that's not because it's necessarily the right way. It is because of our weaknesses, because of our issues. But if you can have the strength and have the spiritual depth and have the commitment to your relationship with God, where you don't need to recall anything to your mind because God himself is enough to keep you at peace. God himself is enough to keep you humble. God himself is enough to keep you in a position where you will keep gratitude on the forefront of your heart, on the forefront of your mind, and on the forefront of your obedience. Can God just being God be enough? Because if it can be, then that is all you need to be faithful. When you can remember, not only did he create you, but that he created the heavens and the earth. Every day you go outside and you look in the sky. Wow, that's God. When you can remember that he is in your every breath. When you wake up in the morning and you yawn. Oh my God, that's God. God, I thank you. When you can remember simply how good he is. How you should have been dead, but you're still here. How you sinned, but you're still alive. How you messed up, but he still got a purpose for you. When you can remember his power. Did he not do things that make no sense by human understanding? Did he not do things that make no sense when you try to figure them out? Did he not do miracles? Did he not allow for things to be manifested in your life that no human being could have done? When you remember how he took you from being unqualified to being qualified, when he took you from existing in unrighteousness, being bound for hell, and he moved you over into a righteous seat that you did not deserve, that you were not qualified for. There are so many individuals listening to me right now who, if you took a moment to look over your life, you can identify some area, something, some place, some seat that you hold that you were not qualified for, but you still got it. Whether it be by way of favor, whether it be by way of divine timing, whether it be by way of grace and mercy, or a compilation of them all working together, you should be able to identify something somewhere in your life that God has given you that you didn't deserve. And this is what should allow for us to always stay in a position where we are faithful to God because of who he is. Point number 4, last point. Your success is dependent upon your faithfulness. You becoming somebody has always been dependent upon God, right? And your faithfulness should be predicated on God. So if you think back to the day that you gave your life over to Christ, God has always been in the mix of you being successful. Because the day you transformed your mind, the day that you renewed your mind, the day that you stepped over into a relationship with God, you became successful. You became a new creation. You became bound for destiny, bound for purpose, bound for heaven. And as you walk down that path to your purpose, to get to that level of success, as you are already now someone who is destined for success, you have to stay committed to God. And as you stay committed to God, what should that look like? Faithfulness. Remember, you become a constant. You become loyalty. You become commitment. And the only way to be successful is to be faithful. Even when you think about it in a natural standpoint or a natural thought process, the only way to achieve success is to continuously do it over and over and over and over and over again. That means I'm being faithful to it. When you are faithful, it comes with a certain level of discipline. You cannot have faithfulness without discipline, because to be faithful means you have to deny how you feel. So if you're going to be faithful, you're going to have a certain level of discipline, whether it be in the natural or the spiritual. So in your relationship with God, when you want to get to what God has for you, you have to ensure that you stay in a position of being faithful with the discipline it is going to require for you to become successful. You cannot reach righteous spiritual things if you do not have a level of spiritual integrity that keeps you in a place of being faithful to God. So you have to understand the success that you desire, the success that God desires for you, because he has already made you into a success. So success is what's going to come out of the rest of your life as you go on this journey down this path with Jesus Christ, with the Holy Spirit, and with God. It's going to be success after success after success after success, because we go from glory to glory to glory to glory. God is always doing and finishing his perfect work on the inside of us. So there is always supposed to be progression and elevation, progression and elevation, progression and elevation. And yes, we go through the pain. Yes, we go through the trials. Yes, we go through the letdowns. Yes, we go through the hardships in the in-between, but it's only to prepare us for the next. So we have to make sure we have faithfulness so that we can keep on being successful, understanding that we are destined for success. We are destined for success, but whether or not we show up at the door of destiny will always be predicated on, can you stay faithful regardless of what's going on? Can you stay faithful to God even when having faith in what he said is starting to become in question? It's starting to become something that you're wondering about. It's starting to become something that you are starting to doubt. Can you still stay committed? Can you still stay faithful? Can you still have that belief and that trust, because you're leaning on love, and that love is provoking you to say, I will not let my flesh win. I will not let the devil trick me out of my position. I will not forget that God is still God. Even if I am starting to go through the emotions that are making me question what he said, I will not let that win, because the words that he spoke still came from him. And if I trust in him, I got to trust in what he said, despite how I feel. And if all else fails, if I create all the hypotheticals in my mind, all of the what ifs in my mind, the one thing that I can never question, as long as it exists, is me truly loving God. And as long as I love him, that is all I need. That's it for this episode. I hope you really enjoyed it. I hope it blessed you. Hope it impacted your life. I hope you now have a deeper understanding of faithful and faithfulness and what that looks like over faith. It is more important for you to be faithful, full of faith, full of belief, and full of love, than it is to simply just be full of faith, because faith gets tested. You go through things in life that will make you be in question, that will question the plan God has for you, that will make you question certain things because you are human. But can you maintain the level of faithfulness that is necessary for you not to give up your position, for you not to become disrespectful to God? Can you keep your faithfulness because of belief and love being more important than simply just faith? So, I love you. I hope you take something from it. I hope you can add something that was shared to your arsenal of tools, your arsenal of weapons to better your life, to impact your life in the right ways, so that whatever you go through in life, you will overcome and not succumb. Because, as I always like to end this, you are always the more and never the lesser. And we, yeah, you big dog. Yeah, you big cheesy. Yeah, you ma'am, king, queen. I see ya. Yeah. Huh? We are fourth quarter pressure. God bless you. I'll see you next time. 4QP family. This is a call to action. I need for you all who are blessed, who are impacted, who get motivation, inspiration, knowledge, and wisdom from this movement. I need for you to step up to the plate and show support. I need for you to donate so that I can keep doing what it is that you enjoy me doing, what it is that God called me to do for you. But this has to be a community. I cannot do this all alone. I need for you all to chip in, to pitch in, to put some skin in the game so that this movement can sustain, maintain, and keep progressing, so that this movement and this ministry can expand. There are so many more souls, so many more lives that need to be impacted, that need to hear what God is saying. And in order to do that, there has to be financial support so that it can push the ministry forward. So please, if you have not already, all of those watching, all of those viewing, all of those supporting, all of those being ministered to, please go over to Cash App at $. This is 4QP. Again, on Cash App at $. This is 4QP, so we can keep doing what we do, because you already know we are always the more and never the lesser. And we, you and me, we are fourth quarter pressure. Appreciate the support.